Hey gang, welcome back to another Viewers Projects video. This is number 14 in the series. So if you haven't seen the other 13, go to the playlist, Viewers Projects, and check out those other videos. I really enjoy doing this series because it shows what other people are doing, and it helps me, it actually encourages me to want to make more videos. And this one is a highlight of that because Robbie has a 68 Mustang coupe that he's building. It's going to be a very cool car. I can already tell by looking at the video and what he's doing, this is going to be an awesome car. But Robbie has some great pointers, he has some great advice, and a lot of those things that he says, I have said as well, and I point those out when I do my videos. So let's take a look at Robbie's 68 coupe.
Alright. Well, I want to start this video out with saying a few things before I move on to show off my project. And the first thing I want to do is thank Barry. Without your help and your videos, detail you put into them, this project either would have been put on hold, lost motivation and stopped, or just moved way slower than it's been moving. So thank you, Barry. Thank you for the videos you put out, the detail you put into them, the updates you do, the help you give, and helping grow this community. I think what you're doing with the viewer projects is awesome. It's definitely helping to grow the community. It's getting more people like us that are garage gearheads, more or less. People that are rebuilding these cars, either in their driveways, their garages, people that are lucky enough to have a shop, so on. To move on to my project, the car behind me is a 68 coupe. It was not my first. My first car was bought by my dad whenever I was in high school, was a 67 coupe. It was in really rough shape. It was an inline six car as well, base model, nothing fancy. It was like a hunter green color. We tore it apart, stripped it down, brought it to a sandblaster who blasted it and threw some gray epoxy on it, and it sat in that condition for probably a year untouched. Went through some personal things, parents split, I stayed living with my mom, the car stayed there for a little while, and eventually we moved it over to my dad's house so he could help me work on it, and it wasn't moving anywhere quick because I was in school, I was working, I just didn't have time to work as much labor as needed to be into it. We managed to I managed to buy some sheet metal parts for it, and that was about all that got done to it. So eventually my dad decided that we would look into getting a car that was either complete or close to being complete that didn't need much work. So in doing so, we started shopping around, couldn't find anything locally. We looked at a couple cars and they were rust buckets. They were in rough shape. We stumbled across Duffy's Collectible Cars out of, I think, Ohio. Don't recall exactly, but I want to say that I found them on eBay. I pulled up their website, I called them, I got a bunch of pictures. The car looked amazing. It looked gorgeous. And it looked like it was completely restored. Good to go. So we jumped on it, bought it, had it shipped down, and I was more than thrilled, overexcited whenever I got it, because it was beautiful. I mean, it was baby blue, 3-speed on the floor. It was an inline six. I wanted a V8, but the way I saw it is that was going to be my first project, is building a motor to put in it, and when the inline six went, if it did, or whichever came first, if I managed to finish building my motor and getting the transmission I wanted, which was a T5, and got it all ready, then I would just do the swap and sell off the old stuff, or keep it as a spare on the shelf somewhere, whatever. But needless to say, the car was not as in good a shape as we thought. The motor was pieced together from parts not only an inline 6200, but what appeared to be from a 170. I think it had bearings in it from like a 250 or a 300. I don't know. I talked to the engine builder who explained it. This was years back. That car was bought when I was 18. That was my graduation gift, more or less. The car ran and drove around for, I don't know, a few months, maybe a year before the motor started having problems. I don't even think it was a year, it was a few months. Motor went, rebuilt it, local rebuilder down here in Mississippi put it together for us, and we went and picked it up and dropped it back in the car. Drove it around for months, and it started getting a rod knock. Well, turned out well, it wasn't a rod knock, sorry. It started making noise. Pulled the head, and turned out it had metal shavings in the block that were not cleaned out and gouged up one of the cylinders bad. I was about halfway done with my engine build at this time, so I needed to make this thing last because it was my only car at the time. So I went and got one of those little 3-prong expanding honing tools and pulled the head, pulled that piston, rotated the crank around to where it was on the low end stroke, and honed it out. Just smoothed it out as best as I could. I knew I was going to have blow by, and put it back together. Got a new piston, new rings, new bearings, put it all back together, and it ran. I mean, it didn't run great, but the engine ran and got me to school, to work, back and forth until it was time to put the V8 in. Did finally get the V8 swapped, and motor ran not so great because I had planned on either doing a supercharger at the time or maybe turbo. I wanted to go fast. So I bought a blow-through carburetor for it, thinking that I could run it without boost until I got the money for the supercharger, and it didn't work out. It ran super rich, didn't run well, but the motor pulled enough to where my driver door stopped wanting to shut properly. And whenever I started looking into why, I started noticing that the car was actually starting to twist from just the torque of the motor. And when I looked into it more carefully, I noticed that the rear frame rails, the front frame rails, the extensions for the front frame rails that are like the floor supports were toast. They were just bubbled up, rotted out, rusted like crazy. I'd already started to see some bubbling on the door skin, on the quarter, on the fenders, and I had done just little makeshift fixes. So whenever I saw that, I decided it was time to fix things right. So I started tearing into the car and tore into first the inner, like I don't remember what the panel is called, but it's by the kick panel on the right hand side, right and left, by where the fenders cover up in the rear. I'll show it in a sec, but cut into that. Then I found out that there were not one, not two floor pans, but 3 pieces of floor pan that were left. The original, a replacement patch, and then a floor pan over the top of that. So whoever messed with this car before didn't know what they were doing. They were just throwing metal over the top of metal, and it was a mess. That is what led me to do what I'm doing now. And it's slowly been a snowball downhill, because in restoring this thing, I ran across some pro touring builds and decided that this is a base model car. I've already motor swapped it. I've already done a couple other mods that aren't what you would call factory original. So I'm sure I'll upset some of the crowd that is more of, I can't think of the word for it, but people that like restoring things back to factory. To me, this wasn't the car for it. I had to replace so much metal in it, there wasn't much of anything left of the original, and it was the cheapest, most produced base model coupe that there was. So to me, I just wanted a daily drivable car that was really fast and could compete with modern day sports cars. And that's what I'm going for. So I'll end this little chat and move on to showing off my project. So here's my project. It has been for the past, I roughly 14 years since I got the car around when I was 18, and I'm 32 now. I'll start with going over what metal work was done and getting it to this stage. So I'd said that when I put this V8 in the car, started having problems shutting this door. Driver door alignment was off. It didn't want to shut smoothly. And I started looking around on the car and found rust in various places, frame rails and so on. So I started taking the car apart so I could figure out what all was in need of being fixed. And I wanted to do it right this time, since apparently someone didn't do it right before. So when I tore into it, this was the panel that I first discovered that was rusted up. It was rusted all along the bottom here. Upon chopping this out, I discovered the top torque box that runs kind of across like this was also rusted up, and there were 3 layers of floor pans. There was the torque box original, there was like another top section of a torque box that looked like that had been welded on, or sheet metal patch, whatever it was. Then there was the original floor pan was there, and it what little was left of it, and like a patch, and then the actual floor pan that was the newest one. I ended up ordering I had ordered a passenger and driver side floor pan for the 67 I had, that I still had those pans just stored away in an attic. So I decided I was going to try to use those. And coincidentally, whenever I started uploading videos to YouTube, because I started doing a YouTube channel mainly for tracking purposes, for my historical records, more or less. Some people make a photo album and do pictures. I kind of wish I had done that too. And I started doing it originally and had a bunch of pictures saved in a folder, and I'm pretty sure that hard drive died at some point because I don't know where those pictures are. Luckily, YouTube's stored online, so all my progress has been kept on there. After I started uploading videos, I started actually getting subscribers, which I didn't expect. I was mainly doing the channel for my purposes, for me. In doing so, I met people, became friends with people online, and I met someone that had a connection with, I think, Scott Drake, maybe? I don't remember for sure, but anyways, he messaged me and told me he could get a discount on parts that would be worthwhile if I wanted to do a big sheet metal order. So I ordered a whole 1-piece floor pan, both doors, both front fenders, both full quarters, and spent less than I would have ordering just a full floor pan, I think. Oh, and a cowl. I also ordered a cowl at the same time. So I'll go over what's original in the car. Is a whole lot shorter list than, well, I say original, what I didn't replace. It's a whole lot shorter list than what I did replace. This dash, I didn't mess with, other than fixing some rust here and there. Nothing major, no patches or anything. This pillar, the roof, the rockers, the whole sail panel area, this rear deck, these little braces, that tunnel, these little inside pieces here, and this rear tail, and this. Everything else on the car, these weren't replaced as well, but everything else on the car has been replaced, other than like the extensions and such. Those are still the same. But the rear trunk area, these side drops, all the quarters, the doors, the hood's the same, and it needs to be replaced. You can see where it's mangled up here and there, rusted, pitted. I did a patch here. You can probably maybe see you can see the light shining through all the pins where I'll have to kind of bond over. It's really thin there, and I couldn't weld without burning through constantly. Everything's been replaced on this car. The cowl I ordered as a 1-piece, and discovered the regret that I should have ordered as a 2-piece, because Barry's talked about the E-coats on these cars or on these parts that you get. Some of them are good. I've had some parts that are E-coated, and I can put acetone on it and not rub the coating off. You're supposed to test it with lacquer thinner, I believe. But some of these E-coats are really, really good. The downside is the cowl that I had, right inside, you could see it was E-coated where it sprayed through this grill. But I was able to shine a light further back underneath this way. All of this was bare. All of it. Like right where the hat is, that would have rusted out in no time. It was all bare metal. So I drilled out all the spot welds, separated it, and I epoxied the whole inside, top of this, bottom, then top coated that with some Rust-Oleum gray, and seam sealed the crap out of the hat. And welded it all together. Actually, one of the previous viewer videos talked about tools, and one of the tools I bought that I don't think I needed to get, but it came in handy for mainly this cowl because of how many spot welds there are on this thing and how much cleanup it would have required. A MIG spot weld, in my opinion, will by far be stronger than any contact spot weld. The little pinch type. I bought one of those little pinch type welders, and it saved me a ton of time doing this cowl because this whole front lip was able to be done with that. Most of this side area I could do with that. But I did still go every about third one and MIG just to make sure it was really strong. Talking about tools, buy tools that you're gonna use often. Don't spend a lot of money on things that you're not gonna use but once. It might save you a little bit of time, but if you're on a budget, put your money where it's more useful. Clamps, for instance, you can see how many I have up there. Harbor Freight ones, the majority, they work just fine. I mean, the clamps is one tool that you're gonna use if you're doing sheet metal work on these cars. A welder, I've got a MIG and a TIG. I use both of them a lot. Sheet metal work, you're gonna use MIG mainly. The TIG I use for fabrication stuff. These welds on these headers, these ones back here were kind of a learning how to do stainless. They don't look that great. The ones up here, much better. But it's something you learn. Like I took welding in high school, and you just got to do it to get better at it. And the more you weld, the more you're gonna get used to it, and the better your welds are gonna look. You're gonna improve over time. But anyways, your tool collection is gonna grow when you're restoring one of these, and when you've been restoring a car as long as I have for this project, 10 plus years, you're gonna accumulate things. I mean, it's a given. But anyways, back to the project, which is slowly almost becoming a drivable car again. So I guess since I walked to the rear, I'll talk about it. I redid the whole electrical system on this car. I kind of regret getting rid of some of the stuff since I've needed it. One of my top recommendations, which Barry stresses as well, is if you take things off and you take things apart, hold on to them. Don't sell them, don't trash them. You will more than likely need to go back and review them. You'll need for measurements, whatever. And one of the things is, I didn't think I would need any leftover electrical stuff, but things like this headlight switch, it uses a molded plastic plug. Nobody reproduces those. I sold that along with all my harness to a guy that bought a shell, and now I'm using these little spade connectors to plug into my headlight switch, which isn't the best. I fear that those are gonna end up rattling loose and shorting out on something. So I'm now searching for a little molded plastic headlight plug. The ignition switch was another one. Luckily they reproduced those, so I was able to get that. So I rear mounted the battery because I wanted, I mentioned before, I'm making this car into a modernized pro touring car, and I want to make it daily drivable, clean, street, quick, etc. So almost everything on the car has been replaced to stainless and aluminum billet if possible. I don't want things that are going to rust, and I want a clean appearance. So I got a billet aluminum hold down, mounted to Optima, built this little board, which is the mega fuse that feeds the American Auto Wire Highway 22 kit. It's over here. And excuse the wiring, it's temporary for testing and to be able to turn things on in the car. I've got a little relay box here that drives my 2 fuel pumps and the second fan. fan. One fan relay is on the fuse block as well. And this Highway 22 kit is awesome. If anybody is looking at one, these are way cheaper than the Mustang retrofit wiring kits. I think they are like $600 to $800. But if you're going for a factory restore, then that'd be what to go with, obviously. But these are kind of a universal. They come with everything. Get this and wire up everything you need, because it comes with the ignition switch, a headlight switch, etc. Granted, I'm using all my factory stuff. So that feeds that. I've got two 200 amp breakers that feed my front starter and alternator. I'm running 2 of them in parallel, so it helps carry the load so it doesn't trip them on a starting surge. And I've got 2 small breakers that feed the Holley Sniper EFI and Holley Hyperspark ignition box. I had a welder friend, local fab guy, make me this aluminum tank. I've got a ProFlow billet pump hanger with 2 pumps. This is a return line, a feed line. They're wide together inside, and I have them spliced together here, or not spliced, but a Deutsch connector here. And I separated them and made them disconnectable because it's set up to where the Holley will run one pump driving, and the other pump will come on under a boost trigger. So whenever I build boost, the second pump will come on to provide fuel when it's needed. This way, if my primary pump fails and I get stranded somewhere, all I have to do is pop the trunk, swap these plugs, and I can get the car home on the secondary pump. I have a rollover valve in the tank with a filter vent here. Comes out right there to that little filter, tucked away nicely. And you'll notice these, Barry uses these suckers all the time. They're great. On the underside, if you watch Barry's videos, you'll recognize the suspension system. It is a TCI torque arm rear suspension, and they are awesome, but they are a pain in the butt. At least for me it was. Probably more so because I have a modified car. I have mini tubs on mine, so installation was not a breeze for me. And Barry fought with his a little bit as well. TCI is not the greatest of help, but they do help some. They were able to send me parts that I needed when needed. It is coilover rear, coilover front. The car is sitting on 18-inch Riddler wheels, Willwood stopping power, 14-inch disc front and rear, 4 piston rears, 6 piston fronts. I went all out on the brakes. 275, 35, 18 rears, and fronts are 235 40s. I don't know if you can read that or not. All of the braking and fuel lines are stainless hard tubing going from front to rear. I don't know if I'll be able to show it, but all buttoned up underneath. Then it goes to flex once it gets up close. Heat wrapped line. Coilover Mustang 2 front suspension made by Rod & Custom. And I have a classic auto air AC system with a bulkhead feeding it out of the dash, so I could clean up in the engine bay. Nice flush smooth firewall there. Car is powered by a Ford 302 old non-roller block out of like probably a 70s model truck. And I have a Sniper EFI 1250 8 injector fuel injection system that I just bought that hasn't even been ran. And I went with that because simplicity, daily driver. I want this thing to be able to fire up just on the fly, and this thing self-learns. It auto-tunes for you, and it has a bunch of features to tune it better. Coil to match, MSD ignition system to go with it, and turbo is on the way that will mount up right here. You can see I'm starting to work on my crossover here. My headers are Fox body shorties. Ford, I just flipped them around so they're forward facing. This side will cross over and run to this side where it'll come up, and the turbo will mount somewhere in this vicinity. Radiator is a 4-row 24-inch big block radiator. It's an eBay special. Seems to be decent quality. I had my welder friend swap out this, what was a barb like that, to an AN fitting up top, so it could mount to my AN fitting here, since everything on the car is AN. And my return line system here that goes to a boost reference fuel pressure regulator. Among other cars among other mods than just the suspension and brakes and obviously EFI, I also did Deutsch connector bulkheads. These are by Mavin Performance. Very nice pieces, but very pricey. Similar to a mil-spec connector. But it allowed me to take my whole engine harness and front accessories, electrical system loose, all in one bunch, and pull them out of the way easily. But I also have a Willwood pedal assembly, and this is dual master cylinder brake system, so front and rear, and a clutch. And the way that works is a balancer bar. You adjust the balancer bar left and right on the brake pedal, and it adjusts your brake bias right and left. And the clutch with this is super soft. It feels like a Honda Civic's clutch. And this is not a factory clutch. It's got a 4-puck, like 600 foot-pound rated torque clutch in it, so it's quite heavy, and it is just as easy as can be to push in with this hydraulic setup. But all the other plus of running this Willwood pedal assembly is not only do you not have the brake adjustment, blanking on what they're called, but you don't have that extra knob underneath the engine bay to adjust the brake bias pressures. Everything's adjusted through this balancer bar, and the pedal effort is just nothing. I mean, it's as if you have power brakes. Another mod done, which you can see, is I went with deluxe interior. I like the brushed aluminum look. I'm going for everything billet, stainless, and aluminum, so I figured why not keep that look. And as you can see, I also went with Autometer cobalt gauges. This gauge cluster swap was fun for lack of words. Also went with some gauges to assist with turbo or boost applications. Obviously vacuum boost gauge, wideband, and oil temp. That is on a little radio bezel you can get online. I think CJ and a couple other places sell them. They are gorgeous in my opinion. I love the blue. The Holley Sniper also has a little touch screen. It's like a little 4-inch screen. I don't know where I'll mount it yet. I'll probably end up putting it in a center console out of sight, but you can use it to, first of all, run the wizard on it to set up the EFI system, and then you can also use it for tune and ignition adjustments. The car is mini tubbed. I still have the front, well, I still have the seats and the carpet, which will probably be in it temporarily whenever I get the car driving, just so I have something to use. I have an I Did It tilt steering column. I will probably go with a one-piece headliner. I think Mustang Steer makes those. I still have to order a dash because I did get rid of my dash. I'm undecided on if I'm going with the same company that makes the seats I'll be getting, which I'm blanking on who that is as well. They make a bunch of custom interior stuff for old cars. The seats I think I looked at were Villains. I don't remember the company name, but they're like XR Villains or something like that. But they make a dash as well to match. But then there's also the dash that's made by, I think, Mustang Steer as well, that has the 2 gauges. I don't know if I will need any additional gauges yet, but if I do, that's probably the dash I'll end up getting, just because I don't really care to run a pillar gauge pod. I do have them, but I don't know if I want to run them. Bought those a while back, but yeah, these. But the seats will be getting replaced. I'll end up replacing the carpet. I have a different steering wheel now. The back seat, I don't know if I'll actually have a back seat again or not, because the mini tubs make it where I'll have to adjust them. I like the idea of having a back seat, but I do plan on having a roll cage in this car because, like I said, I like to go fast, but I also want to be safe. I don't want this thing to kill me. That's my project. Long time in the making. And I'm hoping I'll be able to drive this thing again before I kick the bucket. One thing, another thing Barry stresses in this video is that I can't stress to people enough because I've learned the hard way several times. Safety. Get you a pair of these. If you're running chop saws, grinders, put those on. Barry uses a respirator. I've had LASIK surgery, and well, I learned that I do not want to have to pay for eye surgery again, so I wear a full face mask if I'm doing anything that throws up a lot of metal, like these little burr tools. If you're spraying epoxy, get you a charcoal canister. Organic vapor filters. If you can smell the fumes, your filters aren't working well. But that's it for my project. I thank y'all for taking a look, taking the time, sticking around. I know this video is made exceptionally long. Barry, feel free to edit out useless parts and make this thing shorter. And once again, Barry, I can't thank you enough. What you do for this community is huge. This project of mine wouldn't be as far as it is if not for you. The videos you make are awesome. The time you take to edit them and make them entertaining is just no words for it, man. And remember, guys, no project's too big. Like Barry said, if you get frustrated with it, you get tired, you come out here and you start staring at it and you don't know what to do, take a break from it. Clean the shop, organize tools, make a list of what you need to do to the car. I mean, I made this thing, and I'll come out here and some of these things I just won't feel like doing. I'll skip it, I'll go to the next. If I can work on something else on the list, I'll do that. I got frustrated with messing with this exhaust the other day just because I didn't have the radiator at the time. You can see that crossover pipe is way too close to my radiator. I've got to break those tacks loose and re-weld it. It's not gonna work like that. I didn't feel like messing with it, so came in here and wired up these gauges. I just sat in the car, relaxed, drank a cold drink, stripped wires and crimped them. And just lighting those things up motivated me more. Oh, and one last thing before I go. I had this fan shroud welded up as well for my radiator. So hopefully this will help with cooling the system as well. The Holley system also will control these and it can trigger it with the AC. That guy right there is the one who made them. He made my gas tank and this. It's on Instagram, check him out. Pretty good stuff. But anyways, again, Barry, thank you. And keep working, guys. She'll look great when she's done, I hope.
That was awesome. I'm so happy that Robbie is using the videos that I've made, taking tips and advice and ideas that I've put out in my videos, and is using them to help him build his dream car. That is awesome. And again, it just makes me feel good that other people are using these videos and building their cars and not just letting them sit, not letting them go to waste, and not giving up. Let's put it that way. So I want to thank Robbie for sharing those videos with me. Great story, great project, and I think, like I said, it's going to look fantastic. And I'm jealous. I really like the gauges. That really caught my eye. I'm going to have to consider something along those lines for the Jade Mustang. Those look really sweet. So I'm going to have to do some more research on that and maybe steal his ideas for the Jade project. So again, thank you, Robbie. I'm so thankful that you made this video, and that my videos are helping you in the process. So by all means, when you get an update and you want to share it, let me know. Send it to me and we'll do an update on this video series as well. Now, with that said, I have another one, maybe two, that are already in the pipeline that I have to get edited and figured out. So give me a little time. I'm working on it. I've been busy doing other things here at the shop, and if you haven't seen my other channel, Joe Daddy's Workshop, I did a video where I built some deer feeders, and that took me a little more time than I expected, but they turned out fantastic, and I'm very happy with that. I'm happy with that. Okay, if you're interested in being or having your car shown on this channel under Viewers Projects, by all means, send me an email and we'll go from there. I would like to help out and like to see what you have as a project, and we'll go back and forth with the email, figure out what we need to do, and get something put together. So by all means, contact me and we'll go from there. I want to point out as well, I've been doing my live streams on Monday nights at 7, so I'm going to continue doing that. I've been trying to do the live streams, or I have been doing them on Wednesday at 3 p.m. I've done some on Thursday at 3 p.m. because of just time constraints. I don't know that I'm going to do one this week, but I'll try to give you a heads up if I am going to do that so that you know as well. And those are a lot of fun. I use StreamYard. I get people from other parts of the country. I've had people from other parts of the world come on to my live stream and we talk about cars and stuff. So if you're interested, check that out as well, and maybe you can be part of the process. That's going to be the end of this video. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for all that you do to help this channel grow. I am this close to 40,000 subscribers, and I'm pretty excited about that. So there will be a follow-up video on that as well, and when I get that put together, you'll know it. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.